Hello everyone, this is Kimberly Riggs with KRiggsArt, and this is my co-host Sif, who decided that she's not actually going to stay and co-host. All right, so this week we are on to 2-point perspective. Yay! So this is my most used form of perspective. I find it usually creates a more interesting composition or dynamic image. Some images do lend themselves better to 1 point, but on the whole, I prefer 2. So, what's the difference between them? How do I decide which one to use? Well, the answer is this. 1 point is used when looking straight onto a scene or object. So, if you take this book, for instance, when I hold it like this, you see the front of the object and the side of the object. And then depending on where it sits on the horizon line, you might see the top or you might see the bottom of it. But this is still in 1 point perspective. If you follow these lines, they would all go back and meet in the same spot somewhere behind me. Now, if I rotate it, your perspective of it will change. So now the corner, instead of the front, is closest to you. So now you have 2 sides, and then again, depending on where it sits on the horizon, either you can see the top or the bottom, or neither, just the 2 sides. But instead of like this, where these all went back to the same point behind me, once you rotate it, you have these going off this direction, and then these going off this direction. So you actually have 2 points. So one thing that hasn't changed is your verticals haven't changed. They will still be perpendicular to the horizon line. So say your horizon line is here, this would meet up and cross it. Your parallels, however, or your horizontals, in 1 point perspective were parallel to your horizon line. Now in 2 point perspective, you no longer have any parallels. They all either go to one vanishing point or the other, but your verticals will remain perpendicular, at least for now. All right, so 2 weeks ago, I covered how to draw a repeating shape, a circle, a repeating pattern. And if you missed that video, you can click right here, and the link will also be in the description. So this week, I'm carrying those concepts over into 2 point perspective. In 2 point, you need your horizon line and your 2 vanishing points. You'll want to plot your vanishing points off of the sides of your paper. I always keep a piece of newsprint underneath my page so that I can plot my points beyond the edges of my paper. And that helps me to extend the horizon line. This is important because if you get your vanishing points too close together, you'll end up with some distortion in your image. Try it. Try putting your 2 vanishing points on your paper and then put an object below one of those vanishing points. It won't be accurate. It'll look really wonky and you can see the difference. Okay, so in my example, my vanishing points are just barely off of the sides of my paper. I do prefer to get them further apart. However, I wanted to keep them within the view of my camera so you could see what I was doing. All right, so I decided to combine the tricks from the 1 point video into one cohesive, if simple, drawing. I'll slow down the time lapse to draw attention to each of the techniques as we go along, remind you how they were created. Okay, so let's do this. So here I have the repeating shape. I used X to find the center of my boxes, then mapped out where each new vertical should rise from the vanishing point line. So far, everything is headed toward only one of my 2 vanishing points. This leaves it looking as if I have paper standing erect. There is, as of yet, no depth to this image. Okay, so now watch carefully here. I used the circle technique without actually drawing a complete square. So I already have half of the square drawn with the edge and midpoints mapped out. So all I need here is a half circle. Therefore, I didn't need to do the full circle. I didn't need the full square to draw my circle inside. All I need is a half circle, so I use the lines that I have already drawn to figure out the curvature of my semicircle. And then I repeated that down the line. Okay, now with 3 lines, 2 going to the opposite vanishing point from the one that I've already been using, and 1 vertical, has converted my image from flat into a 3-dimensional object. Then I proceed to use the repeating shape formula once more. I divide the vertical line into 8ths. Now comes my favorite part. I love watching all of these lines come together to form a cohesive image. It's a bit like the joy of doing a dot to dot, connecting seemingly random dots on a paper to create a picture. Finally, I decided to shade it in for 2 reasons. The first is that it makes it easier for you to see the final outcome. And second, shading adds another layer of 3-dimensionality and weight. But we'll cover that a little bit more in a different video. So I do have to apologize. In rewatching my video and preparing this for you, I realized I didn't end up using a repeating pattern formula in this drawing. So I will make sure to use it in my next tutorial and show how it might work in a more cohesive drawing rather than in just boxes and squares. Yes. If you need a refresher on how it works before we get to that tutorial, you can always refer back to my first tutorial. I've put the link in the description. Alrighty, well, thanks so much for joining me this week. In 2 weeks, we should have yet another tutorial. We'll hit on these a little bit more and bring it all together in a pretty cool picture. I haven't decided yet what I'm doing. If you have any suggestions, recommendations, things you want to see, let me know. And I will break that down for you in 2 weeks. Next week, you get another time-lapse video. This one will be back to painting. And I really like it. It's a little brighter, a little more vibrant and happy than a lot of my paintings end up being. I tend to like dark, saturated paintings. But I really enjoyed this one. So, yeah, stay tuned. If you enjoyed this or enjoy my time-lapses, please hit the subscribe button below. The notification bell will let you know when I upload new videos, so that you don't miss anything. So I hope you all have a great week, and we'll see you next week with my time lapse. Thanks so much. Bye.